Right. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the board meeting for the 11th of April. I will get Tyrone to open with the karakia, please.
Kia ora. Kia tau ngā manaakitanga a te mea ngaro. Ki runga ki tēnā o tātou. Kia mahia te hua, makihikihi. Kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori. Kia tūturu, ka whakamaua, kia tīnā. Tīnā! Ie, tai ki e.
Tai ki e. Kia ora. Thank you, Tyrone. All right, first up, we've got apologies this morning. I know that Jamie is trying to log on, so perhaps we just take that as a late entry, Liz. Is that we do in the meantime? I know he's trying to log on this morning, so.
Sorry, can we just hold on a second? Linda, have you started the YouTube?
Yes, she has.
I've had an email from Michael DeHamel saying he can't see anything on YouTube.
It has been started and it is reading as live on YouTube. There is a slight delay in getting to YouTube, so if he gives it another minute or so, it should show.
Thanks, Linda.
Okay, Liz, do we take Jamie as a late apology?
Yeah, if he's trying to get in, that's fine.
Okay, mover? Well, I'm happy to move that if I could have a seconder. Thanks, Andrew. Right, so declarations of interest, once again, we'll take those throughout the meeting. Confirmation.
One in respect of item 9, the Littleton Harbour Information Centre. I'm a trustee of that organisation, so I'll sit right back from that one.
Thank you, Andrew. We will note that down. Now we have got 2 lots of minutes. So if anyone got anything they'd like to bring up regarding these, there's obviously the minutes from last week's meeting and the minutes from the 28th of March. No,
can I just mention that there was an email sent to Tori and Tyrone about the name of Drummonds, whether it be wharf or jetty, and I advised them that as far as I have always known, it has been called Drummonds Wharf. What size vessels it can take, it doesn't really usually make a difference. We've got lots of little wharves, like Robinson's Bay Wharf couldn't take a ship, etc. So I advised that there was no need to change that.
Okay, thank you. And it's just regarding the minutes for the 8th of April.
4th of April.
4th of April, sorry. I saw 28th, and so thank you, Liz, 4th of April. So if anyone else got anything they'd like to raise regarding those minutes that needs to be corrected, or if we captured it all, if that's all okay, I'll ask for a mover, please. Moved by Andrew, seconded by Scott. All in favour? Right, that is carried. Thank you. Right, and then we head into public forum this morning. Good morning, Sue. I see you with us this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, Morena, thank you for your time this morning. Just going to speak very briefly. I've just written down a few notes, so I'll read it just so I don't get off track. So I'm speaking today as a Robinson's Bay representative on the Council's Akaroa Wastewater Community Reference Group. So I just wanted to provide a bit of a heads up, really, following on from the group's recommendation that the heritage area on the Robinson's Bay wastewater site be protected. So this site is significant as it's home to the first powered sawmill in Canterbury, which was built around 1855. The area has already been assessed to have a medium to high archaeological significance, with the site originally home to the mill itself, buildings, the water wheel, the mill dam, the flume, spillway, water race and tramways. So many of these features are still apparent in the landscape today. So this area is adjacent to the historic Pavitt Cottage, with the Wynne Williams Cottage located further beyond. So one of the shared principles that was agreed by the reference group was that each facet of the project must be designed to avoid or minimise adverse effects on the environment, historical sites and affected communities, especially Robinsons Bay and Takamatua. So the group acknowledged that the preservation and protection of the Robinsons Bay Sawmill Heritage Site was important, with it having immense historical and archaeological significance. So a range of possible options were discussed. They included creating a historic scenic reserve, the council leasing the area to a community group, and then the council gifting the land to a community charitable trust. So the latter option is what is actually favoured by our community. So it was in the end requested that the sawmill heritage and archaeological features, including the historic Wynne Williams cottage, be subdivided, appropriately fenced from the wastewater scheme and gifted to the community charitable trust with provision for public access and appreciation. So the upshot of all that is that the Robinsons Bay Ratepayers Association have commissioned for a professional heritage report to be done of this area, to both sort of gain an accurate picture of it and provide a record of its significance. So the Ratepayers Association would actually like to request the opportunity to present a deputation to discuss the report's findings, and are really just seeking your support for this project going forward. So I understand that there's a community board meeting on the 16th of May, so we're just wondering if the community board was agreeable, whether we could set up a deputation or possibly a workshop for that date. Yeah, so that's where we're at with it so far.
Thank you, Sue. We appreciate the update. It's good to hear that things are moving forward. Now, Liz, are we able to forward that to staff for consideration? I see your hand up, Nigel. Just bear with me a moment. Liz, we forward that information.
Excuse me. As far as I know, staff will be aware of it. So what you read out there, was that from the reference group minutes?
Some of that was quoted from what had come out of the joint statement from the reference group.
Yeah, that's cool. I might get a copy of that from you if I can, and then
I'll
we can
email
forward
it to you
to staff, and then we can look for a time. It sounds more like a workshop sort of situation than a public forum, you know, a 5-minute public forum sort of thing.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Thank you, Sue. Nigel, you had a question for Sue?
Yeah, thank you, Sue. As you know, a subject near and dear to my heart, and the summary of the review group after a lot of discussion, I always thought was going to go out to as a media release. Do you know if that's happened?
Not at this point. I haven't actually heard anything about that. I think that was something that the wastewater team, probably Kylie, was going to follow up on. Yeah, I had assumed it would actually come back to the reference group in some sort of draft form, but I haven't actually heard anything about that yet. I understand that maybe Gary Brittenden was going to write an article for the Akaroa Mail.
Yeah, that was the idea, I think, wasn't it? Yeah. Now, you said you want the board's support, so do we need to do more than what's being done right now, I guess?
We can't, in public forum, we just refer to staff, and then that's the next discussion we have, Nigel.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Sue. We appreciate, oh, sorry, Andrew, quickly, you got to...
Thank you. Just quickly, yeah, I went out visiting the site that Sue has been talking about a few weeks ago and found it very, very interesting. And if anybody wants to look at photos of the two cottages, they're there on my Facebook and Instagram pages, particularly the Wynne Williams cottage is one that people may not have seen before. I mean, this is essentially the community offset or the community benefit that was talked about in the early stages of the wastewater project, that, you know, if Robinsons Bay is going to be the area where the wastewater is distributed, treated wastewater distributed, this certainly is one way that that community offset or the ability for the community to have something good come out of this is able to be achieved. But the question for Sue, presumably the value of a workshop is that you're able to present this in more detail, show maps, show photographs to really give life to the proposal. How long would you anticipate needing for such a workshop? So that's the first question. Second question, what urgency is there? You know, is there a timescale within which we need to do this? And the third question, it probably relates to what Nigel was just raising. Are you looking for an expression of support from the community board? And if so, would you want that to come out of the workshop as well? So how long do you need for the workshop? How urgent is it? Are there any deadlines? And are you looking for support from the community board as a result of the workshop?
I would expect that quarter of an hour would be great. So the time frame on it is dependent on us getting the report finished. The work's being done on it at the moment, and we've been told that we'll have that by the end of this month. But the time constraints are also dependent on the council when they go to, when they put in their resource consent application. So at the moment, they're talking about the end of June for that. So we would, love to have a bit more of a steer on things before that application goes in. And yes, your expression of support would be great going forward with this project. And I think that would be, a great result from that workshop.
So you're looking for a support from the board by the end of June, ideally. And can I suggest that 15 minutes for the presentation, but if we made it a 30-minute workshop, that would give time for some Q&A and some discussion as well if it was needed.
Yep, that'd be great. That'd be brilliant.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Sue. We appreciate the update and your time this morning. We look forward to catching up and seeing that further information.
Thanks so much. Kia ora.
Thanks, Sue. Kia ora.
So you're happy if we put that the board agreed for staff to follow up on this matter and organise a workshop with the Robinsons Bay Ratepayers Association?
Thank you, Liz. Right, next we have Linda. I see that you're on the call this morning. There, Linda?
You're muted, Linda. Sorry, you're still muted.
Here we are. Now,
Good morning, Linda. Yes.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Lovely to talk to you all, and thank you for the opportunity. After the last community board meeting, the Friends of the Museum sent through a letter highlighting another council document where the Akaroa Museum was lacking in being noticed and highlighted. So it's just really to talk to that letter and ask the community board if somebody could please scrutinise or look through council documents so that whenever staff are putting together a document, Akaroa Museum goes ping in front of their eyes so it's not missed again. But firstly, Andrew, would like to say thank you very, very much for all your support and hard work in getting the full budget restored to the museum. That is so much appreciated. I think really, like Sue, I've got a couple of notes. I won't talk for very long. But just to highlight why it is really important that the museum is highlighted in council documents, and that is really to underpin the fact that the Akaroa Museum is sitting in an area of national historic significance. And the museum actually tells that story, and nationally, the whole country is reliant on the Akaroa Museum for telling the history of the area, which is Anuku Marae, the raids from Te Rapraha, Onaui, Takapaniki. The council's now recognised the Takapaniki site and what happened there. The fact that the township of Akaroa is settled by the French, the only formal French settlement in New Zealand and the first formal European settlement in the South Island. We've also got Frank Worsley and all his history. Akaroa Township itself is recognised as a historic heritage area. So heaps and heaps of reasons why the Akaroa Museum should have prominence in amongst one of the council facilities. We've got the first hospital actually set up in the South Island by the French. We have got the first consecrated cemetery in the old French cemetery, and it just carries on really. So that's pretty much what it's all about. We're just asking, because of the national significance of the area, that the museum should also be recognised as a museum of national significance and upped in the council, what do you call it, in the council eyes really, so that it's not missed in council documents. We repeatedly see council documents referring to facilities that aren't actually council facilities when one of its own special and unique and wonderful facilities is missed. So that's all. We're just asking if somebody could please go through all those council areas and say, where is the Akaroa Museum in here? And honestly, personally, I believe it should be on an equal footing to the art gallery. So that's all we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. No, we appreciate your input, and I have noted that some documents have been sorted out once it got brought to our attention. So there'll no doubt be more, and we'll no doubt flag that for others. Is there anyone have any questions this morning? No, we appreciate your time, and look, we do appreciate the value that the Akaroa Museum does have on the area and the national significance. So no, thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Right, now on to item 5, deputations by appointment. We don't have any at this stage, and presentations of petitions, once again, none at this stage. So item 7, correspondence. Page 19.
So the correspondence is just what Linda was actually speaking to just now.
Yes.
The staff have actually gone through those community profiles and put in pieces relating to the Akaroa Museum and actually other historic or other museums in the area, although they are privately owned, but they have been put in, and we can send a copy of that through to the Friends of Akaroa Museum.
Thank you, Liz. Do we need to move and second that?
Yeah, just that officer recommendation, if you're happy with that.
Nigel?
Can I speak to that? I think great. It's great that all the other museum and historic sites are recognised, but I think specifically what the museum's asking for, the Friends of the Museum are asking for, is that it gets recognised alongside the other council assets focusing on art and culture in the area. So it's not just a grouping of historical museums like Cairns and Little River. This is an asset. This is a council asset, and I think they need it. They want it to be highlighted as such. That's what I'm hearing. So I don't know whether that's quite in line. Thank you, Liz, but I don't know if that's quite in line with where that submission and where their heads are at.
Am I able to speak to that, or am I beyond my talking?
No, we've gone on to the next part. So
okay,
thank you, Linda.
Go.
I think I can't remember the exact wording, but I'm pretty sure it does actually refer to it as the council-owned museum.
Yep.
I can get that. We'll circulate it around to board members as well.
I think what you're saying, Nigel, is that's also going to be brought up in our destination management stuff, and making sure that those things like the Akaroa Museum are front and centre and different things that are coming forward. So I understand it's about increasing the awareness of the significance of the Akaroa Museum and that it is a council asset. So I completely understand what Linda's saying, and we just need to keep moving that forward in whatever way we can. Right. So I have got officer recommendations to receive the correspondence, and also note that staff are already addressing the issues of inclusion in the community profile. But that's also for us to increase the profile of the Economic Museum ourselves. So if I could ask for a mover. Oh, sorry, Tyrone, did you have a hand up before we move?
Sorry, Tori. Yeah, I just wanted to say, like I kind of said this before, like things like the Akaroa Museum, and you know there are countless others, like they should never be at risk. And I think we're all agreed on that. Like they just simply shouldn't be at risk. Like there needs to be a model that means that these things are preserved sort of in perpetuity. Like no one's thinking of shutting down the Canterbury Museum, or you know that's a self-sustaining thing. So I don't know what the answer is, but like I just want to say that like this board should always be advocating that, you know, these types of assets should, you know, they should be forever.
That was certainly highlighted
Yeah.
recently with what happened in the budgets. So yeah, no, I agree. Okay. So
and just
once
noting
again,
that you are getting a briefing from the museum director this afternoon.
thanks, Liz. Right, so we've got correspondence. We just need to move that we've received those. So can I ask for a mover, please? Thank you, Scott, and seconded, Nigel. So moved by Scott, seconded by Nigel. All those in favour? All right, that's everyone. Thank you. Right, next item of correspondence we've got is Harry Stronach. That is page 21. Right. Just regarding the Littleton Tug. No, once again, we just received this. Is that correct, Liz, with the officer recommendation?
Yeah, I believe it, Tyrone, have you been having some conversations with some of the Littleton port guys, and that if the board was of a mind to, they might, you know, raise it in those conversations?
Yeah, look, I've had some informal discussions with LPC through the Port Liaison Committee,
yeah.
And you know, and specifically Phil Dejoux, who's been really helpful. I think that there are ongoing conversations there between LPC and the society, and I think that, you know, we should really encourage those conversations to continue in good faith. I think that there's a desire there to want to preserve the heritage, and I think that you know, there's also some, you know, lots of other considerations as well. So, you know, I mean, we received the correspondence and just note that conversations are ongoing.
Sounds good.
So you're happy, everybody's happy for that to be added as a point 2?
Yes.
Note that conversations are ongoing.
Yep. So Tyrone, are you happy to move that with that little bit added into it?
Yep.
Thank you, Tyrone. Seconded. Thanks, Reuben. So we've got moved and seconded to receive the correspondence, and that note that discussions are ongoing. And like I say, we'd like to see a good outcome.
Yeah,
Sorry.
do you want to maybe say that it has been raised through the Port Liaison Committee, and you note that conversations are ongoing?
Thank you, Liz.
Yep.
Okay.
So moved by Tyrone, seconded by Reuben. All those in favour? It's everyone? Aye, it's carried. Thank you. Right, item 9, DRF. So I do understand that Andrew is going to step back from this decision. So just regarding the DRF. So Philippa, I notice you're on the line.
Yes, good morning, everybody. We've got one application to consider for funding today. Littleton Information Resource Centre Trust, and they're looking for signage to identify and highlight the facility from which they're working. They're open every day, and I think if there's any questions.
Does anyone have any questions for Philippa this morning? Howard. You're on mute, Howard. Sorry.
And I'd just gone through my big spiel and it was absolutely brilliant.
I bet it was.
Absolutely lost my train of thought now.
Oh, okay. No,
So what I
just
was
look at
actually
the
asking about, you know, I've got no problems with this, but I haven't heard anything about the Littleton toilets. Has anything happened about them yet?
My
I know
understanding.
it's completely off topic,
They
but
share the same boundary, yeah.
the same
next door.
building and everything. Have they been finished yet, or anywhere? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
There has actually been some information sent around to the board about that. I can find it and resend it if you like. I thought that the work was underway. I don't know if it's finished, but I thought that they had already started it.
Okay, no, I was just curious.
The idea is
completely off topic.
Thanks, Helen.
Because the information centre is adjacent or to where the toilets are, the idea was that if they put up their signage at the same time as some sort of scaffolding or whatever that might be required for the toilets is in the location, then it's actually going to save some money. So that was part of
Good
the
idea. Rationale behind it.
Rationale, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so anyone have any further questions for Philippa? Otherwise, we look to approve the grant for a big sum of money, $968. That's very well done. So if we've got no further questions, I ask their mover. The discretion. Ruben's happy to move. Thank you, Ruben. And Nigel looks like he's. Oh, okay. Tyrone's fine.
Nigel.
Okay.
Yep.
They're all fighting over who's going to second. So moved by Ruben, seconded by Nigel. All those in favour? Aye, that's carried. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So, thanks, Philippa. Right. Now we will move on to item 10, Penelope. Area report.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Cool. Area report, looking full, especially with engagements and consultations, but just moving through the staff initial projects that have been going on. There's a little snippet in there about the Eastern Bays, saying that there were going to be visits by household. That did happen. With staff, and there's a report back to the board in the briefing this afternoon around that. Anzac Day, I don't know what the latest is on that. It's been a movable feast, and the usual march and everything was indeed cancelled because the costs incurred for traffic management planning are quite high, and because they needed to be confirmed way back in February in order to do the traffic management whole planning process, it was decided to not do the march way back then and not close the street because no one knew of whether or not they would be able to do that, and it could be just a big waste of money. So so they'll be doing some smaller commemoration on site. And maybe even by then we could be in orange, so it could be a little bit bigger than what it certainly would be in red. Yeah. What else?
As you say, it's a moving beast, that one.
It is.
I know things are changing almost daily, so yeah. Thank you.
But everyone's really keen. Of course, locally, everyone wants to acknowledge Anzac service appropriately. So many submissions. You've been working really hard as a board to get your feedback in on quite a few there. Right. Now, Liz, is there anything in particular that we need to get approval from the board today for in terms of those submissions?
Excuse me, yes. We want to hear from the board about the draft annual plan submission.
Of course, yeah.
And also the submission to the policy on Maori freehold land.
Right.
Okay.
I'm not sure if there's going to be quite a lot of discussion about the draft annual plan, whether the board wanted to suspend standing orders to talk about that, or if there's not going to be much discussion, whether you don't need to do that.
I noticed Andrew's got his hand up, so Andrew.
Yeah, and it's in relation to the previous matters. So from the table at 3.1. So Anzac Day, we've just had a verbal update, but it sounded as though that was relating to Akaroa rather than Littleton, Diamond Harbour, Little River. Is there any update on what's going on at those places? So that's the first question. And then I've got one other matter to raise as well.
Well, Little River and Akaroa are organised by the same crew.
Indeed.
So the same applies to Little River, and I'm unsure about Diamond Harbour and Littleton because we're not as
My
involved
understanding is that nothing's going, that there's nothing going ahead, but we haven't had any communication saying, if anything's happening in a small way or whether there is nothing or.
Yeah, and that's because because of the red alert and the numbers were so low that we're allowed to attend anything. It was the RSAs across the country were keeping everything very quiet because they still will do. They were planning on doing an RSA service. They might have just had a bugler there. They might have been doing their wreath. And they didn't at that stage want to attract a great deal of public to an event that might become bigger than what it was allowed to be. So they were keeping everything on the down low. Now that, and then waiting for the announcement on the 14th, it is, we get from the government. Yeah, so I think we'll hear more publicly once the new rules for gatherings are understood.
Yeah, Pen, can I just highlight, speak on the Diamond Harbour? The event has been cancelled, like you say, due to the red light and everything like that. There was going to be a small gathering around the pole and a bit of event. It may change. At this stage, it's still canned, and it's just going to be a light sort of event ceremony with locals.
Yeah, I think that's very typical of what's happening.
Okay, Andrew.
Thank you. So, assuming everybody's finished with that one, the second item I wanted to raise was the 2022 Walking Festival. So the Rod Donald Trust are currently advertising for a contract coordinator to deliver the Walking Festival, which is intended to go ahead. So there had been some conversation about whether it would go ahead or not, but the Rod Donald Trust made a decision to recruit a person on contract to deliver the Walking Festival. So my understanding is, assuming that plays out as expected, that the Walking Festival will go ahead.
Indeed, yes, yes, and that's not until November, I think.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So things will be quite different. This this Walking Festival mentioned on page 29 in the agenda is the Christchurch-based Walking Festival. It's not.
Right. Okay.
It's not.
That's where I'm getting confused.
Sorry. That should have been probably. That was written by someone.
I see the link actually.
Yeah.
Yes. So it is Christchurch.
Yeah.
So
that's the
Peninsula
Walking Festival
will go ahead as normal in November. There had been a question as to whether it would or whether it wouldn't. The intent of the Rod Donald Trust is that it will go ahead, and we're recruiting a person to deliver it.
Yeah, lovely. And the funding is still available for that. Yeah, that's great.
Great. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification, Andrew. I took it, like you, that it was a Banks Peninsula, but no, thank you. Now we're on to just further in this part of the agenda was the annual plan submission. So are we happy to go ahead with or send our annual plan submission in its form that it's currently sitting in? Or do we need to make amendments, or does anyone see that there's anything that we need to change? If not, we can send it as it is at the moment, and we can certainly talk to anything that has been brought to our attention in the meantime. So I've got Tyrone, then Nigel. Tyrone, do you want to say something regarding that?
Well, are there any unresolved matters before we send it off? There's probably one or two things that we just need to tidy up, maybe. I don't want to be too specific, but like, yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's on that before we do send it off.
Quite often we do have in the from the RMCs. I didn't note anything regarding that. I do notice there's obviously the Governor's Bay jetty.
Yeah, there is. There's the Governor's Bay jetty. There's the Bonds Bay RMC, and then the 2 letters regarding the Littleton Recreation Ground. One's from, I think it's from the committee, and one's from the rugby club.
Okay. So Tyrone, was there something specifically that you wanted to, were you thinking of that hasn't been mentioned or is not caught up in this?
Yeah, there's probably some correspondence that's we've still got going on that, yeah, I don't really want to speak to specifically, but like I just want to make sure that we've done everything that we can before we send it out.
Yeah, so there is some correspondence to look at later, and so we wouldn't expect that the board actually sign off the submission here, as long as you're mostly happy with it. And then, of course, there is a delegation for the chair. Or
okay, we can add things to it
to sign off the final submission.
Oh, okay, that's cool. Liz, thank you.
Circulated, you know.
Yep.
Through the
Thank you.
Yeah. So there are some specific questions in your draft. If you look at page 44 and pick up the notes in blue, there are some specific questions there that would be really handy to have the board discuss while you're all together, verbally, rather than try to do it by email later on. So maybe if we could move through those blue comments, Tori.
Okay. Yeah. So we've got the
questions.
Yeah. The wastewater treatment plant renewals. It is budget. Does the board wish to make a comment on this? So now I'm confused. Added to the budget, so we're increasing the budget that's going on this. So I guess we support that.
Yes.
Anything.
Yeah, I would.
Anything that adds to the budget, yep, support. So Nigel, I'd get a thumbs up from you that's what we want to do. Anybody else want to comment on that one? Just the wastewater treatment plant that we're just adding to the budget, Andrew.
I should probably sit back from this, given that I'm on the council, which is going to be receiving it, so I won't comment. But there were 2 areas, so you're obviously working through these, but there are 2 areas that I thought the board might want to consider. One is the Pages Road matter that was raised some time ago, and we talked about the possibility of asking for some funding in the annual plan to deliver a solution there. And the other is there's no mention in here, and I'm guessing because it's already underway, but I thought there might be an opportunity to mention the destination management plan, given that that was one of the highest priorities. So they're just suggestions as to things I thought the board might want to consider. Other than that, I'll keep out of this discussion because I'm conflicted as a recipient of the submission.
On the destination management plan, didn't staff send out some correspondence last week about we're getting briefed next week, and Christchurch NZ is putting out a tender to companies to actually bid on writing it?
So with the destination management plan, we can mention our thanks for the support of that to council, because we have been raising this over the years. We do know it's in progress. So that was the email that we received recently, Scott, to say that it is in progress, and we're soon to get an update on that. But I think what Andrew was saying is that we flag it with council to say thank you for the fact that we've been going on about this for quite a long time, that this is in the budget and this is staying in budget and it's being delivered as we speak. So I think it's more of a raise as a thanks that even though we do ask for different things, that we do actually acknowledge when they do come to fruition. Now, Jamie, I've noticed you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I think it was just in response to the Le Bons Bay issues. That was something I raised last year. It just seems overkill for some light bulbs and some gravel to have to go to the annual plan. Surely there's another way to do that these guys can get sorted much more quickly than this.
I think the Le Bons Bay one was mostly about that half court, and the board had actually said when it considered that report and that you would consider it annual plan / long-term plan submission time, whether to support some funding for the half basketball court.
Yeah, that certainly is part of it. But in this document, it's about the LED lights and metalling of the whole driveway
as well,
which were things that we put to Parks to see if they could organise dropping some gravel for that job over there last year.
There is some discretionary budget around reserve management committees, so we could forward those smaller items through to Paul Devlin to look at that.
Yep, that'd be great. Just to push that along for them.
Yep.
Thank you.
And the LEDs, the hall, the community centre items are a different part of council. That's the community facilities coming under Paul McKeefrey. I do know that they don't have. He's always short of budget, especially for more discretionary things. So
that was also one that was raised early last year.
Yep. All right. I do know that his budget doesn't. He can't maintain all the buildings in terms of. He can barely maintain them in terms of security and weather tightness, and health and safety. Let alone, it does sound bad to say, doesn't it? Light bulbs and dimmer switches. But we'll find that out if that can be done or not. And I guess if not, then the maybe the Reserve Management Committee capital, or else coming back to the board as a discretionary response fund item is another option.
Thanks, Pen.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we've still got these just a couple of blue highlighted sections. Tyrone, I notice you've got your hand up. Tyrone?
Are we only talking about blue things, or can I just talk about other stuff?
And the annual plan?
Yeah, it's annual plan related.
Yep.
Well, sort of. I don't think that we're being quite, can't find the right word, but aspirational enough in what we want for sort of transport connectivity. The problem that we always have is that we've got a state highway running under the hill, and buses that are controlled by a different authority, but other facilities that are controlled by the Christchurch City Council. So if we try and plump for a specific thing that we want, and people come back and go, "Oh no, you can't do it," then we're kind of stuffed. Meanwhile, in Littleton, I know that there's a really strong network of people who are advocating really strongly for increased ways to get bikes, through the tunnel or lockups and Heathcote or whatever it is. And I just want us to really kind of do what we can in this submission to say, we really want some creative thinking from council and being able to solve some of these problems. But, there isn't a council department of brainy ideas, and unfortunately, but we really need to try and evoke that kind of thinking through what we're asking for.
It's a hard one because we almost need to ask for something specific to get funding on. So are we?
Which is a hiding to nothing.
Yeah, but then again, we also know that when we ask for specifics, i.e., $20,000 there to support this, that, and the other, it can get moved through rather than asking for brainstorming. I think, from what I understand, isn't Project Littleton looking at samples as well, looking at ideas around this?
Yep, definitely.
So it's it's a part of supporting that particular project within Project Littleton as to how to move that forward, or whether they need extra staff time. So, you know, whether it be 5 hours a week or 10 hours a month or whatever, to move that particular project forward is going to get traction, rather than asking for the bigger picture to be looked at, if that makes sense.
Actually, I'll just check with Ruben. I don't know if it's Project Littleton per se, is it, Ruben, or there are elements of different community groups?
Yeah, I think it's people within PL, but I don't know that they're doing it as PL or as individuals.
Yeah, it's a community initiative.
Yeah. Okay.
Tori, I wonder, even though it's not a capital item, I don't know that you can't ask for some strategic planning to happen, for some aspirational, creative, strategic planning to happen, to look at transport, issues for Littleton and surrounds. It doesn't have to have a dollar value. We've had other, there are other, in the LTP, the council established or moved to establish a rural forum to look at rural issues. Whether this issue could be added to that as a, as a topic within that, or whether you wanted to highlight, transport and connectivity as a new theme, as a specific theme. I think that's highly relevant. But it's what you're asking for within that really is staff time. Which is a cost, of course, and it would need to be, that would then need to become a priority. But because it doesn't have a specific dollar value to it, that might be acceptable.
It's about sustainable transport solutions, isn't it? Is what we're sort of gunning for ultimately. And connectivity.
Can I just note too that the board has actually advocated, and I don't know if you had a chance to read the council submission to the ECAN annual plan, and they did carry through the board's suggestions in that about the public transport in Littleton, noting that that it's only Littleton and a small part of Littleton Harbour that actually has public transport, and also. You also raised it, if you recall, with the NZTA, the Waka Kotahi chap, about cycles through the tunnel. So there's lots of things you can be doing, but it's probably consistent to raise it in your annual plan submission to the council as well.
Because we've got this weird situation where basically, in order to get from one part of Christchurch, Littleton, to the main part of Christchurch, or Totahi, you actually have to deal with three different authorities to get through that little bottleneck, essentially.
Well,
you do.
And it's not just Littleton, it's as Liz mentioned, the rest of the bays without transport. I mean, the Gov bus has just been canned. I mean, that's been going for many years, run by volunteers, and due to COVID and the lack of support, it's just been canned. So yeah, something we should look at.
Okay, so we need to add that as another item on for further consideration. It's connectivity, transport connectivity, and how we make it work.
Yeah, the Waka Kotahi unit for transport initiatives and brilliant ideas initiative at some point would probably be the right organisation, but we'll see.
Like I say, it's working with ECAN and council and Waka Kotahi to move these forward. If we want more people on cycles or more people using the public transport network, we need to be able to actually connect to those. Okay.
So can we pop back to the first blue, which is 0.5 again, the wastewater treatment plant renewals. So just wanting to support that one. Little River flood mitigation. Do you want to make a comment? We haven't been able to have the hui because of COVID.
I've had requests from the community that still go ahead though, Penelope, and that that is a priority.
So we could make a comment about how, because of COVID, we haven't been able to do the specific follow-up work, but that we would that the board would like to see some provision or to make sure that any provision for flood mitigation for the Little River area is retained.
Yes, and ongoing discussion regarding that.
Yeah, okay. Lyttelton Harbour information to the reinstate.
Never Point Rural Roads.
Governor's Bay Jetty restoration. The board needs to decide whether to support the trust submission. Feedback from everybody. Nigel,
Okay,
I saw Nigel's hand go up. I think it was a yes, was it?
I think we don't want anything to slow that down. You know, there's been movement there. I think you just well, I would like to think that all support was given to.
Yeah, I thought we all backed it.
I thought it was a done deal.
Emails.
Yeah.
Well, I was on the understanding we'd already backed the jetty and we're 100% for them. Yep, we did, and we offered them a letter of support and backed them in their submission for their loan with the council. So yeah, I don't see why that would have changed at all. It's all going ahead. They're signing the contract with the builders. Everything's locked in. They've still got a bit of fundraising to do, but they'll get there.
Yeah, no, I from my understanding, there was a full board support for that one.
I believe the main point about it now, the sort of outstanding point from the jetty people's perspective, is that if there's cost overrun, they're maintaining that they have a dollar for dollar agreement with the council, although that has never been documented. But what they're saying, and that was up to a certain amount, what they're saying now is if it goes over that amount, will council match dollar for dollar for that as well?
I thought there were terms of that in there when they got approved the loan. There was definitely some terms written around because the council contributed up to 935,000. I'm sure I read, Liz, somewhere from the council in the terms of that loan that if it went over budget, it was to be determined at the time.
So Andrew, can
this
you
is the
enlighten
time.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
So Andrew, can you enlighten us on anything that regarding that?
You're muted,
You're mute.
Andrew, and it was about the Governor's Bay Jetty Trust and what they were requesting.
The last time that was considered, that was around the loan. But the hope of the Jetty Trust, as I understand it, is that the annual plan could contain a capital amount to be contributed to that project, so they don't need to draw down the loan. So all the board would require to do, if the board were supportive, is to support the submission from the Jetty Trust and the requests made in it. So all the board is doing is amplifying what the Jetty Trust are asking for. And it's essentially saying council should be funding this project as part of a budget rather than a loan that needs to be paid back.
How about we change it from a jetty to a swimming pool? Each we got a swimming pool, then we could get a swimming pool in Governor's Bay.
I thought there already was a swimming pool in Governor's Bay.
Yep.
There is. Okay, so okay. Let's
If the board was of a mind to be supportive, all that's required is that the board supports the Governor's Bay Jetty Trust submission and the requests made within it. I think it's as simple as that.
Yep. Which I thought we agreed we had, but yep, no, appreciate the clarity.
Okay, so are we all in agreement that we support the Governor's Bay Jetty? Just a show of hands at this stage. That is, yep, that is everybody. So Liz, yes, we can put on in your plan that we do support the Governor's Bay Jetty submission. Okay, and somebody else had their hand up. Was that to you, Tyrone?
I did. I mean, yeah, as long as it's fiscally responsible, which it seems to be. we can't just go around writing blank checks for things.
Well, they won't want to commit their money either.
Yeah.
They'll want to be fiscally responsible, I believe.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I think we need to remember that the ultimate owner of the jetty will be the council once the jetty passes back into council ownership.
Mm.
And it is going to be a fantastic asset for Wakatapo. It's a big long jetty. It takes a bit of time to walk down. It's on the head-to-head walkway, and it's a bit of history that we're saving. So,
there's no doubt that it's awesome. Yeah, I just don't want us to create a rod for our own back sort of thing. Like, we just need to be able to make sure that we support something in a structured and responsible way.
Yeah. No, I get that. Okay, anything else you need us? So the other few things we're going to raise before we put the submission, is that Ken, or do you need any other further steer from?
No, that's fine for Governor's Bay. Let's just move on to the next one. Yeah, the bonds.
That's the LED lights and that one.
You can certainly do a similar action and support the RMC's submission. Some of those are like the cricket pitch, that's a maintenance issue.
Yeah, there's a few that could be or should be dealt with through other areas. And like you say, even if it has to come back through DRF, either way, we support it moving forward, just whatever it looks like.
Sorry, Madam Chair, I thought you had agreed before that we would actually send those smaller items on and we can follow up through community facilities or their RMC funding about the lighting and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Littleton Rec Ground wanting re-turf, drainage, lighting, suitable car parking, hard surfaces, that's millions of dollars.
But that's happening through the Naval Point anyway.
Yeah, I know. So, but yeah, we're supporting it in different ways, aren't we?
That's the thing, is that a lot of that's been covered for in Naval Point. So perhaps we need to, is that being forwarded on to the Naval Point project management team? Because they might have, an update for the Littleton Rec Ground Reserve Committee just regarding some of those things. Pen or Liz, are we able to do that?
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that they've asked in this forum for those which I understand for both of those, the Rec Ground, RMC and the Rugby Club. Yeah.
Should be going to the project team and through discussions in the Naval Point development.
Yeah,
because I can't see anything on there that's not covered by the redevelopment.
Yeah, with the Naval Point plan. Yeah.
Perhaps you could just add a line under the bit about the Naval Point development, because you've already got that in there, and just say that the board, the board is already saying it's supporting that, and including the upgrading items for the Littleton Recreation Ground. So combine it into your bit where you're raising the Naval Point development.
Yep, happy to do that.
There is quite a lot of work going on around that Naval Point. I don't know if Tricia feels like she could give us a quick verbal, or give the board a quick verbal update, or there is definitely progress on the pavilion, on a new pavilion. There's been an expression of interest for users gone out about that, so that they can do some good planning. Sport Canterbury are doing a study around a combined sports hub at Naval Point. So maybe that there's instead of having a pavilion and changing rooms in the new location, maybe there are just changing rooms for the sports fields, and that the clubs that use the pavilion that's there, they become part of a new sports hub building that's part of the Naval Point. So there is definitely work going on around progressing the pavilion and the relocation, and also of course the planning of the grounds. So yeah, I think we just refer them to the Naval Point project team.
Yeah, no, I'd like to do that as well. Yeah, so I'm quite happy to take that as part of the Naval Point update, and that, but yeah, can their submissions that have come to us also go back to the like I say, project team?
Yep,
thank you.
Cool.
Okay, right, anything else that needs to be? No, the Mary Freehold land, Do we need to discuss that further? What do we need to do there?
I think once again, haven't we supported that already?
That's what I thought.
We have supported it, and I think the support submission that was written is actually well written. So, I mean, let's be honest, this should have been looked at 10 years ago rather than now, but it's in the pipe work. So, yeah, I think what you've written there and signed off on is pretty good.
Right. So, Liz, from my understanding, we had already signed that off, but perhaps we just needed to clarify, or?
I think you'd agreed that you were going to do one.
Yeah.
And we passed it around for comment, and this is your final draft of it. So it's always nice to have the whole board go, yes, we like what's written.
Okay. So, yep. No, thanks, Penelope. So, can I just see a show of hands if we support this, please? Okay. That's everyone. So thank you. Yeah, no, that's fully supported by the board. So it's handled quite well. So no, thank you for that. And the other one was that went through. So as Andrew just gave us the update Liz gave us the update that the Environment Canterbury draft, our submission to get incorporated into the council's submission. Yep. Okay. Anything else anyone wants to raise regarding the board area report? Nigel.
Yeah, just on the annual plan, we had a briefing on New Cottage, and it seemed like it was almost like a fond fait accompli. There's 70 grand in the annual plan, and there's an extra big bulk of money in the LTP. I have been having discussions with numerous people over here, and there's really no desire to see what's happening with that building happen. I believe you may be getting a submission from the Civic Trust saying something down that line. I just want us to maybe share support with anyone who does come up with another option for that building, as it does seem like a lot of money to be spent. I know there's a good outcome as a rental, but that could also be shifted somewhere else to be that. But yeah, I just think there's probably more discussion coming through from other people, specifically the Civic Trust, around that site, that building, into the annual plan. So I'd put that out there.
From my understanding, the reason why we came to that conclusion is because it is very much tied in with the heritage site as well as the heritage building. So it's not just the building, but it was the site as well that was deemed heritage. So we were limited with what we could do with the space, and the whole moving of the place, we couldn't just take it away, and we couldn't, because it is tied in with the area. So it's a hard one.
I heard that it had to go out for more public consultation if it was going to be removed. So it wasn't restricted.
We've gone through this, the previous board, and I think it came into our board earlier in this term that, well, it might have been just last term, that we were fairly restricted by what we could do with the space and what we could do with the building. We couldn't, Liz, correct me if I'm wrong, but we couldn't do too much with it.
The building needs to be removed or shifted over to realign with where it should be if it was upgraded, and the money on budget wasn't enough to upgrade it. It's enough to start the upgrades. And I think Nigel and the community over there didn't want to waste taxpayers' money on a semi-rebuild repair strategy. And the community had talked about using it as a rental, but again, it have to be repaired to a certain level of standard, which, even though there's funds on budget, I think we put it to one side because that was the only option available. And if we didn't agree on it being repaired with an unknown cost, then it'd have to go back to consultation with the community.
Yeah, it's a bit of a messy one at the moment, and it is in the annual plan. And I just thought maybe it needed more discussion.
Look, I can't remember, but you've had a briefing about this, I thought, just recently, and I thought
Yes,
there was
we
a
did.
report coming to the board, but I've just had a look in the forward reports and there's nothing in there.
No.
So look, I'll try and catch up with Russell Wedge at lunchtime and just get a quick update that you could perhaps talk about under your consultations and submissions section this afternoon.
Okay, thanks, Liz.
Mm.
Jamie, you've got a question. So yeah, no, Jamie, go for it.
Thank you. Should BP meat site be in here somewhere, guys? Is it time this week for expressions of interest and something started to move with this? Is this the right place to put something about this?
Liz or Andrew, have we got anything? Because the last time I heard is that something was happening in the background with BP meat site.
Absolutely.
That may have taken.
We're waiting on a briefing.
We're not aware of anything happening in the background.
There is
Nigel and
the proposal from the Christchurch Foundation, which the board will need to be briefed on again at some stage. You'll remember the conversation from a couple of years ago where we had, or might have been longer than a couple of years ago, where we requested DCL to do some work looking at the value of the BP meat site in terms of the regeneration of that part of Akaroa. It didn't go anywhere at all. But yeah, the Christchurch Foundation proposal is in the process of being fully worked up by the foundation. Council property team members have had some input into that, and it will come back to the board for briefing and to the property team for any proposals as well. But the idea there would be the structure that's proposed by the Christchurch Foundation, and then some upgrade to amenity and public realm on that site as well. I probably shouldn't say too much more until the foundation are ready to brief the board, but that's the only thing I'm aware of that's considering future use of the BP meat site at this time.
Sorry, yeah, the board has been updated about that. It was in one of the actions reports. I can pull that out. And there was also mention about that it may be needed, I'm not quite sure how, but may be needed as part of the Akaroa Wharf construction phase, the actual land there that was in the update. I'll find that and circulate that as well.
Yeah, no, I thought I saw. Thank you, Liz. Right. Okay. So that's. Is there anything else we need to mention regarding the area report? No. Okay. So is there a resolution? Sorry. That we received the area report for March. So we're happy to receive that. Can I have a mover, please? Yeah, Nigel, seconded by Ruben. So moved by Nigel, seconded by Ruben. All those in favour?
Aye.
All right. That's carried. Thank you.
I did just find the thing about you, Cottage. You did get a briefing in February, and there was meant to be a report coming to the board on the 28th of March, and it didn't. So I will follow up that.
Thank you, Liz. Right, move on. Next item is the elected members exchange. So I'll just write a wee note so I don't lose track of who's on. We'll start off with Ruben, Jamie, Scott, Andrew, Nigel, Tyrone, Howard. Okay, so Ruben, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. So most of the kind of local conversations or things that have been raised, I think we've covered in that submission to the long-term plan, and they really feed into the conversation that Tyrone, or the points Tyrone raised around the challenges of public transport and getting bikes through the tunnel and that sort of thing. One, there was a bit of feedback, and I think we're part of the decision sits with us on the proposed bus route change for the 28. So I've had a bit of direct feedback from people about that, and also some feedback for the lock and leave bike concept, just around people suggesting that you need to know you've definitely got a spot before you put your bike on the bus and get it to discover you don't have a spot, and you then have to put your bike back on the bus and take it into town, which is, so that's just a kind of a way the system could be operated so that it really functions well. The other one was someone raised that they'd been told that there was a bus shelter structure going onto the Dublin Street stop, which tends to be a stop that people get off at, not a stop that a lot of people get on at. And so they thought that seemed like a strange, if any bus stop to get a shelter in port seemed strange to put one there, which I'd have to agree with, because it's sort of the first stop out of the tunnel. So you don't generally get on there, because you then do a tour of the port on the way back out. But I don't know whether that's something we can find out.
Yeah, the board's actually the decision maker about the shelters and things at the bus stops, plus any pedestrian sort of changes. So that's the sort of thing that you would cover when that report comes to you. And you're the decision maker, obviously, for your part of it. I think there's about 3 different boards involved, because it goes over to the airport, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But you're the decision maker. So that sort of bus shelter thing would be covered in the report that will come to you as decision makers.
Yes. That was everything from me. Thanks, Tori.
Fantastic. Thanks, Reuben. Right. Next, I've got Jamie.
Great, thanks, Tori. Only one item that I've had a resident actually come in to see me twice about. I did ask him to pop down and have a chat to the team at the service centre, but he did ask me to follow it up. Just around the misuse of a picnic area on Bruce Terrace in Akaroa. The resident that lives across the road has been putting clay pots and old car batteries and cars and whatnot there, and the resident is not too happy about that, as you can imagine. But I noticed driving past there today that the sign on the post that's there, which says no camping, is actually completely overgrown. But so I'm not too sure what the right way forward with that is. But certainly it would seem a parks issue. He has seen me twice about this in the last 3 weeks, so I really would like to get something moving
So Jamie,
with that one.
Yep. So Jamie, did you say that he'd done a CSR or a snap?
No, he's
or
an
something?
elderly guy on a motor scooter, so he's popped into the service centre, so he would have done.
He's logged it there
face to face. Yes.
Yeah.
But that he's done it. Well, he said he's done it twice. I assume he has, but he certainly did a couple of days ago again. It has been a problem ongoing. I know that the residents have changed at that address, but the issues are still there. And of course, with Easter coming, it's an area that visitors won't be able to use because it's going to be full of clutter. Yes.
Okay. So can we just follow up offline with you and get the name of the resident, and then we'll do a follow up through the CSR system? It's really a CSR thing.
Yep. Agreed. I just wanted to make sure that he has logged it and something's, he'll. I'm an easy target for these guys on their motor scooters to wheel in and say, "Oi."
That was part of your campaign argument. That was part of your campaigning, David.
So that's the only one from me this week, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie. Next one I've got is Scott.
Yeah, kia ora, Madam Chair. Right, my first thing is we still haven't had an update on the Diamond Harbour Wharf staff, please. If we could get on with that. I get asked every week. That was meant to start this year and blah, blah, blah. So I keep saying COVID's delayed it, but I'd really like some actual information to pass on. Next issue is we had at the Diamond Harbour Association meeting 2 weeks ago, we had a briefing from the medical centre, the group that owned the medical centre in Diamond Harbour, saying that they're almost raised enough funds to start the design and construction stage of the addition to the medical centre, which is well overdue. But during their speech, they told the residents down Waipapa Ave that they almost have approval from the council to remove the 3 gum trees that are on the...
No, Scott, I'll stop you there because I was actually at that meeting, and it's not that they were bringing to the board, or bringing to council, and the council had to bring to the board information regarding 3 trees in close proximity to the building itself. So nothing's been approved, nothing has gone. They've only just taken it to the council, and the council have got to bring it back through parks and us to sort out what can be done about it. So yeah, the rumour mill has gone around, but I was actually at that meeting regarding those trees, and that's all it was just the fact they've raised the concern that there's a couple of trees in the way or close proximity to the building.
Yeah, there are 3 specific trees. I've seen the draft report that's coming to the board. It's a board decision around tree removal, so you'll have that shortly.
Thanks, Melvin.
Has there been any consultation with residents? You say it's a...
You have to wait to get... Look, you just have to wait.
I mean, to say it's a board decision, I think that's what they're coming to me with, saying that no, there's been no consultation with residents that live down the road, and that these trees protect and everything else. So I just want to make sure that that's covered, because this board couldn't make a decision without that.
Yep.
No, that's cool. That's
it would need to be part of any report, Scott, and I don't think they're, from the proposal I've seen, it isn't to remove all the 3 trees either.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Next one is I keep getting correspondence regarding the parks at Naval Point, that there's not enough truck and trailer parks. I have suggested them talking to the project managers and everything else. I kind of agree with them. I have gone down there, and there isn't a lot of truck and trailer parks for boats and everything else. There's more single parks, and I agree that they could be used as truck and trailer parks. But there was congestion down there the other week when I went down there with truck and or boat and cars not really knowing where to park, because they're single parks rather than those long parks designated for trailer units. So I was wondering what to do about that.
We could ask staff for some information about that.
And whether or not the users down there have actually contacted the project manager or staff, because
I believe it's a topic that's been discussed
at
a staff level.
Cool. I thought it would have
limited knowledge. Yeah.
No, that's all right. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott. Jamie, you've got your hand up. Was it?
Yeah. Sorry, there was one other. Actually, Pam Richardson popped in to see me a couple of days ago. Just wanted to ask a question on the immense amount of water being trucked from Akaroa to Devotional. She wanted to know, is there an issue? Is there, the Devotional residents, need to be looking at water restrictions? Or I think part of it is that it's a much more visible activity at the moment because the trucks are filling up using the fire brigade practice area on the recreation ground. And they were just getting filled up all day long. So just wanted to understand why, and, is there a broader issue there, please?
There is a broader issue, and again, I thought that the board had a memo about this, that until the work is carried out on the Devotional water scheme, that at different times they will have to supplement that, whether it be from, I know they've bought water from Wainui as well at different times, but I'll find that and circulate that again, because I'm not quite sure when that work is
scheduled to happen. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Tori.
Okay, thanks, Jamie. Right, next one on my list is Andrew.
Thank you. Just one from me today. I've been informed by the manager at the Naval Point Club that there were another couple of break-ins down there in recent days. The police are involved. This is break-ins to vehicles at Naval Point. You remember 2-3 weeks ago, it was something that we brought up at the community board meeting, and it's something that's certainly received some commentary on social media. So that behaviour, that activity is still continuing. Naval Point Club continue to work with the police, but you'll remember the conversation that came out of the item at that time about the possibility of the Naval Point Club applying for some funding for a video camera or more video cameras that linked into their system. So that's pretty much everything for me, but I'm disappointed to hear that that activity, that antisocial activity, unfortunately still continues.
Thanks, Andrew. Yeah, it is a bit unfortunate that we're hearing that that's going on at the moment. Next up, I've got Nigel. Nigel, there you go.
Yep. My pet hobby horse, buses parking in Akaroa. We've just had all this information, beautiful article in the Akaroa Mail about all the cruise ships that have all been planned for this summer. We're looking at about 70 odd cruise ships. Now, as I've been saying for the last 2 years, the dynamics of buses and bus parking will change in Akaroa, and it would be really nice to get us a staff briefing as soon as we could around this. The dynamics with the ships coming into Akaroa Harbour was that the buses would come over early, leave early, come back late, and drop people off and go. This model was semi-effective. It did create a lot of disruption, but not as much as disruption as is going to be caused with ships coming into Littleton, coming over late and leaving early. Where are those buses going to stay once they've dropped their people off to have a good time in Akaroa? I think we need to have a look at that, because parking around and inside the Akaroa would be somewhat unacceptable. We would be looking up to at least 10 buses. Some of them, I see the first one's got 3,000 people on it. And I think we'll get a pretty good gauge in October what that might look like with those bus tours coming over the hill. Also poses issues with traffic and stuff for Wakatahita as well. But I don't believe much consideration's been given about it, because I think they think the ships coming in is same, but it's not. It's different. Small ships are down coming into Akaroa. Well, that's fine. We understand what that will look like. But buses leaving Littleton, and I'm sure the Littleton people would really like to know what those sort of 10, sort of 7 or 8 to 10, 12 buses a day might look like coming through Littleton and managed through Littleton as well. So some sort of staff briefing on that as soon as possible would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, is that the lot for today, Nigel?
Yeah, that's about it, really.
Okay, so I noticed that
Message
Liz is
hasn't
taking
changed
notes.
for 2 years. Yeah.
Right, so, okay, thanks, Nigel. Next one I've got is Tyrone.
Hiya. I'm going to start off with the Torpedo Boat Museum. I really lost track, because I know in the your report earlier, like, you know, the graffiti team do some sterling work, but I mean, I was looking at the Torpedo Boat Museum yesterday. It was pretty sketchy, eh? So I'm kind of lost track. Is it being cleaned? Is it getting cleaned and re-tagged? Is it, you know, that whole area is just a total magnet for taggers, and my limited knowledge of Christchurch street art suggests that quite a few of those people are coming through the tunnel to do a bit of tagging. But anyway, like it's still very bad, and yeah, just want to really understand what's going on there. There's also, like, I know in our briefings we're talking about Park Terrace Reserve. There are parts of that whole area, and I've talked about this heaps in the past, but like big eucalypts that are, you know, I mean, they call it the widowmaker in Australia, right? Like it's a it's a really dangerous tree when they get that big, and they're still there over at Corsair Bay, and I think that we really need to look at them and have an arborist sort of take a view on them, because I think that they are really problematic, and a lot of the residents of Corsair Bay do as well. That's probably it. I just want to actually just revert back to what Ruben was talking about with the bus shelter before on Dublin Street. Like, that's quite a funny one. Like, I would be amused if there was if actually someone even put that in a report, because anybody who lives in Littleton would obviously knows that you get off the bus on Dublin Street and you get on the bus on Norwich Quay. And so the idea of having a bus shelter on Dublin Street is practically laughable. So the idea of that someone would write a report about it is triply laughable. So I wouldn't even want to see that in a report. I just want to see someone just acknowledge that that's how it is. And yeah, it's a bit of a weird one.
Is that a lot for you today, Tyrone?
Yeah.
Thank you. And Howard, any updates?
I'll turn the speaker on this time. No, the big one seems to be the loss of the Governor's Bay bus, which would be actually nice if ECAN giving out their free buses, they could actually supply a bus to Diamond Harbour, and this is going to be massively used as it's free according to ECAN, so that'd be nice. But the main concern is which I've already been in talking with Liz last time on the 5th of April regarding a snap sense solved about the footpaths around Chartres Bay overgrowth. We don't have many paths to start off with, and most of them are extremely thin, and there's a lot of overgrowth, so people are actually having to walk off the footpath onto the road. The main concern is, how long should a public wait for a snap sense solved result? The original query came in on the 14th of March, and I'm getting feedback saying, why am I ignoring it when I'm not the one ignoring it? It's the staff that's ignoring it. So, I would have thought a week would have been a good time for a response. So what's the council policy on this?
I'm not ignoring it either, Howard. I have been following up. The original SnapSend Solve went in January. Part of the issue was that it's come through as being completed when it actually wasn't completed. So I have just found someone who I sent the thing through to last week, and he has sent that on to a person in Roding. So I can keep nagging them to see what's happened, but I'm assuming that obviously nothing has still happened.
This is pretty poor from the council. The public expect a response. You do a query on these people and they're not that busy. It's simple for them to answer a customer's query that, this hasn't happened. Okay, we'll get back to you on it. What seems to be the issue? And a simple email to this customer would have solved a lot of issues, and I wouldn't be having to, I've got nothing against this person, but it's coming back making me look like I'm ignoring it when it's actually the council that's ignoring it. So if we get something back on that, like I say, the last email I got back was on the 5th of April, which is again another week. So we're getting up to 5 weeks. I would expect these sort of issues would be answered in 7 days. Council's not that important, though the customer's important. So that's my gripe. So I hope something comes through soon.
Yeah, look, I take your point about that, and I can actually email that lady and say that we are following it up, and I will just start following it up every week and see how I get. But I mean, I can't provide the answer. It's a roading issue, and we have to try and get the answer from them.
Yeah, but yes, it is a roading issue, but it's more the attitude coming through to the public is, you're not that important, I'm not going to worry about you. And I know it's not you, but then it's the person you're talking to who's conveying that attitude that, you're not important, I don't need to answer that. So how about we start changing an attitude in the council of the public is important, and we start getting a few results back. I know this is only one, but yeah.
Sorry, if I could just interrupt and say that is just that's one view to say that staff are thinking it's not important. It could be that staff have a lot of queries, and it could be a workload issue, Howard. We don't know. I think it's unfair to say that staff think it's not important, because
but if it's a workload issue, wouldn't you just send an email to this customer and say, hey, look, thank you for your query. We're very busy at the moment. We're short of staff with COVID. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. It may be a month, 6 weeks. That's what I do with my business. And I consider my staff, my customer, important. So I just send them an email. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
I don't know enough about this particular case, but if it was marked as completed, then that's a shame.
That's complicated it, and of course the lady did get an email back, but she got an email back saying that it had been completed, which
it wasn't.
I can understand would be pretty frustrating. Yeah. Okay, so we'll thank you, Howard. Anything else? We will move that one through, and Liz is going to get back to them. Anything else?
That's pretty much it. Like I say, just the growth around the footpaths around the area has been quite substantial over the summer. So, we haven't got much footpaths at all here, but what we do have, it'd be nice if we could actually get them trimmed. I was driving down another area, Marine Drive, and saw a person having to walk out on the road because of foliage overhanging the footpaths. So it'd be great. Thanks.
Yeah, this is not a new issue either, particularly around Diamond Harbour. I can remember, was it John McClister getting out there with head shears and things. As we follow up with that, I think we'll also ask about what the level of service is around that, like how often they're trimmed. Perhaps they need to be done, perhaps that program needs to be, stepped up so it doesn't get to that level.
Yeah, that'd be good. It is also understanding that, look, we've had a high growth summer with a lot of water and a lot of heat. So everything's going boom.
Thanks, Howard. Appreciate the update. Tyrone, I see you've got your hand up.
Yep. You can hear me okay because my headset's just run out of batteries. Just going back to what Howard was saying about like staff feeding back to the public and all that sort of stuff. Like he's 100% right. Like, I mean, it's not like I understand that staff are incredibly busy. Like I get that. But like there's an opportunity there, isn't there? Like it's essentially like an IT problem. Like we've got a system that's really good at taking inputs, right? Like people log, snaps in, solves, but it's not very good at dispensing outputs, so you can't report back. So nobody can really ever have visibility of where their thing is unless they get an email or a staff member uses part of their labour time to be able to report back. So like there's kind of this sort of IT deficit there in terms of the system that, it would be really great to see resolved. And that's a big project, like I know that. But like, in a perfect world, a sort of a fully functioning sort of loop closing reporting tool that members of the public can report in things and see where it's at would just be incredible. Like it would just make life so much easier for people. But like, yeah, I understand like from an IT perspective how difficult that would be to implement. But anyway, just throwing it out there.
Thanks, Tyrone. From what I understand, when the new CSR system was being rolled out, that was meant to be part of it, was that whole loop closing situation. Was once a CSR had been reported, then once it had gone on to the next department, the customer was meant to be notified, and then once the job was closed, that's the thank you for your CSR, your job has now been completed. But that's the unfortunate thing with what's just happened, is the fact that they got that completed sign when the job hadn't actually been completed. So there's obviously a flaw in the system, and obviously there's always room for improvement. However, I do know with this new system there is meant to be that feedback throughout the steps, and I have had it myself of, yes, that's gone to that team's looking into it, now that job's been complete. So it has worked in times. Perhaps it can be improved, but yeah, no, I hear what you're saying.
It's not quite self-service though. That's the thing, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. Thanks, Tyrone. Just a quick update from me. I have got a few things to mention, but I'll keep it brief. The first one is, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, I'll put that up there. That is a wee booklet that the Little River school have sent me, and it's full of photos of all the school kids jumping on the Little River playground. And it's on the last page, it does say that, like I say, lots of handwritten things, you know, the kids have all written stories. But the last page, I just want to read out to everyone. Thank you, Little River, Wairua Community Trust, and the Christchurch City Council for our new playground. So I just thought I'd share that. Back to that picture, there is 21 kids on that one piece of equipment. So hey, when we wanted a fit for purpose and so many kids could use it, 21 kids on one piece of equipment, I reckon it's a pretty good thing to have happen. So no, that is, I think, it from me. I know I've got to send through to the team a few roading issues, which are CSR, but it's just bigger picture roading issue stuff. But I will send that through our channels in which we can report that. Otherwise, Tyrone, I'll get you to, sorry, Penelope, you've got your hand up.
Oh, yes, thanks, Tori. Sorry, look, really sorry to come back to the overhanging growth on the footpath kind of deal. I was, I was thinking about one angle of that when we were discussing it, or when you were discussing it. But what I should have said and meant to say was that this is overhanging growth mostly. Is it from private properties, or are we talking about from reserves and parks, Howard?
I don't know. We've only got a small number of footpaths here. At the end of the day, as I always argue, the footpaths are yours. So at what point does it become public, and what point does it become private?
It's the same argument.
The council owns from the road to 1.5 metres, and the footpath is only 500 millimetres wide, so therefore they own another metre into the land. So yes, you can argue it is actually council land, or is it private land?
Well, it's actually where the stuff is growing from. And usually, often, if it's growing on private property, it's actually the landowner's responsibility. And so what we do is we ask them to trim their overgrowth, to trim the plants and things. And then if they don't, council will go in and do it. And whether or not we bill them or not, I'm not sure. But it is actually it's the property owner's job to keep the growth away from the footpath. So we try and, obviously, the council tries and makes the property owners do that first before we'll go in and trim it.
So Howard, on that, as Penelope pointed out beforehand, we've had this discussion with the previous board, and John had raised that. The argument is, if in the city you're in charge of the grass berm, even though that might be on roadways and pathways that belong to council, you're still in charge of that grass berm in front of your house. It's the same with overhanging trees and shrubs, that go to the footpath. That is still responsibility of the landowner. So it might be a tree or shrub from the landowner's property overgrowing the footpath. So like a grass berm, the landowners have to then take care of it. If it's overgrown from a park or a reserve that is council land, then council has to be in charge of that. But it's the chasing it up that can be done. It's just people's awareness of what are their responsibilities as well.
Yeah, and also I understand where you're coming from, but I also understand that it's not my job to hunt around and decide which is council land and which is private land. At the end of the day, we only have probably half a kilometre of footpaths here. We're very short of footpaths in Charters Bay. It'd be nice if we could actually walk on the ones that we do have.
Yep.
And
so perhaps it's up to our newsletter just to remind people to keep the area by the path clear, so that the community can use that space, because like you say, we are limited with footpaths.
But you also got to remember, a lot of this area is the council, like I know in front of my place, the council owns 1.5 metres into my section, which is actually the road or the road foliage is the council's responsibility. It's not my responsibility, it's their responsibility. So yeah, I understand it's a complicated issue. It was more of a case of
safety.
the way I'm getting from the client, it's making me look like a dick because I'm not supposedly following up when I'm doing all the following up.
And Liz has said that
And
she'll do
the
that. So
customer comes back that, hey, look, this guy's just ignoring us, and where I'm not, I'm actually trying to go further, and it's coming back.
Yep. Okay. So we've already. Yep. Thank you.
In this situation too, I believe it's roadside grass as much as anything, which is because that hasn't been cut, it is forcing people to walk on the road. There's actually no footpath there. So the roadside grass hasn't been cut. People therefore walk on the road, and there's a corner involved. So the people were actually sort of having to hang back and try and listen for vehicles before they walked around the corner.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a dangerous issue over this whole area, but as the area gets more and more developed, you got more and more people walking on the footpath with, high-speed cars traveling around at 60, 70 Ks on a unfootpath road.
Yep. No, we need to, It is certainly a area that has been flagged before, and we do need to continue with looking at, how to best support the community's use of that area. Okay, so on that note, I will get Tyrone to close with the closing karakia, please. And that's the end of our board meeting. So, Tyrone.
Unuhia ki te uru tapunui, kia wātea, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua I te ara tangata. Koe rā I rongo, whakaere ake ki runga. Kia tīna, hui e, taiki.
Kia ora. Thank you, Tyrone, and thank you, everyone.